Hi. There's a saying in quantum physics and in spiritual circles that goes, where your attention goes, energy flows. Where your attention clusters, reality organizes. But if you leave it just there and don't disseminate this a little bit, it becomes magical thinking because it leaves out some really important characteristics. It's missing the behavior change and leads a lot of people to this belief that all you have to do is think your way into a new reality, and that isn't true. It takes more. It takes changed behavior. So attention is a resource allocation system. It activates neural circuitry within our brain, and repetition strengthens those neural circuitries. Okay, so whatever you're paying attention to, your brain learns to prioritize. It says, oh, this person is choosing this as important. I am going to invest more resources in looking for those things around me. Okay, so the repetition is where your neural plasticity comes in. But these stronger circuits, the more you repeat them in thought, the more it biases your perception, behavior, and decision making. So you have to be intentional about where you are directing your attention. Repeated decisions shape your reality over time. Okay. For example, if you are negatively focused and all you draw your attention to is what is going wrong in life, your brain is going to prioritize what you repeat. And so it is going to continue to look for validation of the belief of problems, of limitation, of lack, of loss, and fear. But if you shift your attention to a solution focus, to finding opportunities, and develop a willingness to embody courage in your behavior, your brain learns to prioritize that circuitry. But without the willingness to courageous action in the face of fear, it ends there. Because reality responds to what you take action on. Attention can influence your metabolic resources, your neural prioritization, and your behavioral momentum. You can see this in how a person perceives anxiety as a form of paralysis, where they go into the survival mechanisms of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Or it can be viewed as activation. You know, for someone like me, when I feel fear in my body, I have learned to be more like the buffalo and to walk towards the storm, towards what I fear, because I know that it is smaller when it is behind me than it is when it is in front of me. And I get through it faster by going towards it. Reality organizes around pattern reinforcement. And you reinforce the pattern with your behavior. So manifestation and visualization is great. It is directing your perception, but if you don't take action on it and you continue to behave from motivations around fear of loss and lack, if you continue to seed limitation in your thinking, that is where your bias lies. And all your positive self-talk goes in one ear and out the other, because your brain prioritizes what you take action on. It goes, oh, this was important enough to this person that they changed their behavior. And you teach your brain to be adaptable. You teach your identity to be fluid in those ways. Our identity is designed to always be shifting in how we respond to our circumstances. So the distortion that people fall into is that reality doesn't organize around attention alone. That's a passive approach. It organizes around attention plus behavior plus constraints, right? The containers that you give it, the constraints that you place, like through your expectations, and the constraints that you overcome. Because once you've overcome something, your brain goes, I can do this. So next time it comes up, your brain has a foundational blueprint for how to get through that, how to overcome it, and it will continue to build on it. That's the scaffolding we give ourselves. So if your attention is on abundance, but your behavior is on avoidance, you're trying to go around the storm or avoid the storm and run away like cattle do. Cattle run from the storm, and they can run themselves to death running from the storm that is coming, whereas the buffalo goes towards it and through it and is out of the storm faster. Reality will organize itself around that avoidance. If your attention is on growth, but your nervous system defaults to safety, you'll unconsciously cap Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. You'll unconsciously cap your own expansion, right? And our expectations cap our expansion. So if you are problem focused and you are expecting to be let down, rejected, denied, orphaned, abandoned, if you're expecting those things, you're capping. You're putting a ceiling on what the universe can bring to you because your brain will ignore it. Your brain will overlook, dismiss, and choose not to perceive opportunity if you have a limitation mindset. Okay. So the real mechanism is this. Where your attention goes, your perception filters. What your perception filters, your choices narrow. Where your choices repeat, your identity stabilizes. And where your identity stabilizes, reality compounds. Because the universe says yes to whatever you believe yourself to be. And it will continue to provide you validation because that's how our attention works. Your attention is a validation-seeking mechanism. So whatever you believe to be true about your identity, the world will prove it correct through your perception, through your cognitive biases, and you can choose your biases. Okay? So if you have a personal vision for yourself, that is where the embodiment comes in. If you want to be a millionaire, you have to embody the confidence, the business savvy, the ability to manage your resources, the way a millionaire would carry themselves in the world. You have to embody that in your choices and your actions. A person coming from limitation is going to hoard resources, avoid taking risks, where someone with a millionaire embodiment is going to take more calculated risks because they have the belief in their own success. That is how that works. And then reality compounds your choice. You can over credit internal states and under account for external structure and friction. The translation for this is, you may believe alignment alone should reorganize reality faster than it actually will. It won't. Reality responds to consistency, friction, tolerance, because you teach your brain it can overcome. Avoidance will not teach your brain that it can overcome challenge and obstacle. And repeated embodied action not just internal coherence. These are the things that reality responds to. So repeated, consistent choices that are aligned with what you are choosing to believe to be true. And if you want to know what you really believe to be true, start noting what is coming into your attention and start documenting your behaviors and your responses. What are you choosing? And that will tell you the beliefs that you are operating on. And it will tell you what your selection perception, your selection field is filtering for. And you have the power to change that. You have to repeat it to yourself and follow through consistently in action. You know, there's a phrase that came to my mind here as I was having this insight this morning. But for the but for the grace of God, there go I. And this was, you know, a statement of compassion where somebody from a more secure stance was observing others in a lesser stance who were suffering more. I believe it was during World War II, but I could be wrong on that. So don't quote me on that one. But the viewpoint is that if you are standing on higher ground, it only takes one choice, one set of circumstances to put you in the position of people who you view as having less than you. So that is representative of an interruption, right? Where what you believe to be true about your status, your belonging, your set of circumstances that you are using to define yourself, that is an interruption, right? But for the grace of God, there go I. It is only by the grace of God that I am here. The interruption is what causes that shift from being a person of a have versus a have not. You can implement those intentionally upon yourself. You are here for the experience to learn and to change. In that way, you are not off your path because you have the ability to know that not everything is for you, but everything is usable by you. That means that limitation, lack, and loss are going to occur in reality, but intentionally you can use it to shift the beliefs, perceptions, and embodiment that you need to take you from a lower status in your reality and perception to one of higher abundance. Okay, and that is implementing an intentional interruption. Interruptions are going to happen naturally. They will happen where they are needed to challenge you, to implement growth. You know, a tree is going to experience wind, it's going to experience flooding, it's going to go through earthquakes, weather. So natural events are going to occur that are going to cause interruptions to your belief systems, to what you are paying attention to. You can intentionally cause interruptions within your own field and interrupt the beliefs that are holding you back, that are holding you hostage in lack and limitation. So we need to get to a point where we're orbiting insight. We need to get to a point where we stop just orbiting insight and start bending the outcomes, using those interruptions, right? Those thought stoppers. Like if you are having negative thought streams running through your mind all day, create an interruption that changes and reframes the belief intentionally. And then anchor it in behavior and repeat it until the identity shifts. And then let reality catch up. Because what you are experiencing now and the reality around you has been shaped by past choices. You are the compression point where the past and the future meet in one embodied presence. Hold on. My girls are playing, speaking of interruptions, they're having a great time. I'm not really going to interrupt them anymore. So if you hear them, they're delighting me. They just might be a little bit of a distraction for me. But we need to learn how to use these interruptions to our benefit. Because if you aren't embodying the vision that you want to hold, you're going to continue living the reality that has been framed by your past choices. Leave everything better than the way you found it for yourself. Make choices right now in this moment, when those choice points arrive for you, that embody the person you envision yourself to be. And those behaviors are how you train your brain. Those behaviors are how you shape your perception to pick up and detect those opportunities, those loving moments of self-expression, because love was never the problem, access was. And we have been way too permeable to the stories and narratives and messages of others, often because they're overwhelming and completely inundating. Right? Especially if you grew up in like toxic family dynamics where there were narratives. If you were a scapegoat in a toxic family dynamic, you grew up with narratives shaped by everybody around you that limited your worth. But those messages weren't yours. You can interrupt them in your choices now. In choosing, even if it feels like a small calculated risk, taking that risk out of love for yourself to take the action as if you are worth it. And then allow your reality to catch up, because the truth is you are. And you always have been. The divine spark is within you. The monad that they speak in Gnostic texts is within you. You are not a spirit housed in a body. You are a body encased within spirit. Spirit is all around you. It is just where you are turning your energy towards, right? And energy is transferred and transformed. But you have to interrupt the flow of negative energy and shift it into positive energy. And you do that through your actions. Because that is what the universe responds to, is the embodied actions that you take. You are not a body having a spiritual experience. You are a spirit having a bodily experience. So where are you directing and guiding your body? Your physical choices, your behaviors. Attention is not a wand, it is a lens. Energy is not magic. It's momentum, it's movement, it's behavior. Reality is not commanded, it's patterned. It feels like a command, but it is patterned. It is repeated over and over. It isn't just one and done statement. You have to repeat the command. Okay, you have to repeat and live it. You don't manifest by focusing alone. You construct inevitability through repetition. So I'm going to leave you with some questions, because the real question is not, where is my intention? That is just your thermometer. You control the weather. So the real question is, what am I repeatedly doing because of where my attention is? And then you shift your attention and you shift your behavior with an interruption. Because but for the grace of God, there go I. And all of us are only one choice point away from failure or success. And failure is a tool to learn. It is the storm meant to teach us. So are you going to be buffalo or cattle? What form of abundance are you manifesting? Because abundance is all around us. If you are avoidant, you will have an abundance of avoidance. If you are courageous in your action, which means you proceed as if you are already successful because you are, then you will have an abundance of opportunities to be successful. So, what am I repeatedly doing because of where my attention is, and then make the timeline shift that you need to. I love you.